Hi, what we're going to be doing in this video is we're going to be learning how to use Excel or Google Sheets to start making some decisions. And there are many functions that you can program Google Sheets to actually make some decisions for you. So I'm going to use this example. So I copied and pasted some final exam data from my days of teaching college. Okay, here are my last name, first name, and final exam grade. All right. And over here, I've designated a passing score. So I'm going to say 65 is passing for this exam. So the first thing I might want to know is, did a student pass? All right. And so did the student pass? And what I'd want to do here, well, one way to do this is to make a comparison. So I could say, well, I want to compare these test scores to my standard of 65. All right? So I can put in a formula that will compare. Well, how do I know a 93 passed? Well, 93 is greater than or equal to 65, as opposed to 61, which is less than or equal to 65. So what I can do is put in what's called a comparison formula. In other words, I want to compare this score and all these scores to my passing mark of 65. Okay? So I want to put equals. I'm going to put in this cell. This is C2. Is that greater than or equal to? Notice I had to use two symbols here. This cell. All right? And notice it's coming up, the formula that's coming up is true. Because in fact, a 93 is greater than or equal to 65. Now, if I were to drag this formula down, something really weird happens. For 77 is clearly greater than 65. If I go into the cell, notice what happened. When I drag this down, C3 is to the left of the cell, but that's greater than or equal to H3. H3 is a score for an A, which is a 90. That's not what I want. So recall, we have to put dollar signs around our H and 3 so that we don't actually want H3, we want H2. So I need to put dollar signs. Actually, I'm going to go back. Excuse me for a second. I'll put this back to what it was. I'm going to go back up here, and I want to put a dollar sign for H and a dollar sign for 2. That will freeze the row in the column. And now when I drag the formula down, I could see the C3 changes, all right, because that's a relative reference. In other words, it's not frozen. And the H2 stays the same, okay, and you can see it's reporting a value of 65 right now because we froze the row in the column. And now I can drag this formula down. I can drag it all the way down, and I can see, very simply, which kids passed and failed based on this. So I can see, okay, Dulce Cronin here failed. Dore Devney failed. Okay? And I can go down and the list. And those are actually my only two failures on this test. Now, true or false is just saying, okay, the computer's just making a comparison. Is 93 greater than 65? Or greater than or equal to 65? Yes. I just wanted to show you, by the way, if we put 65 in here, it stays true. If we put anything less than 65, like 64.9, it turns to false. I'll move that back to 93, which was the score originally. Now, maybe I don't want the thing to say true or false. Maybe I want it to say pass or fail. Okay? So, for example, we can use what's called an if formula. So I'm going to clear out the formula that's in this cell. I'm just going to select it and hit the delete key. And I'm going to type in equals if. And I want to open up a parentheses. And it sort of gives you kind of how an if formula works. And an if formula works in the following way. The first thing we need to do is put in what's called a logical expression. In other words, we have to put in something that would come back as true or false. So here's what I'm going to do. I want this cell, this 93, if this is greater than or equal to H2, which I'm going to put dollar signs in front of because I want to lock that. If, whoops, excuse me, I messed this up. This should be greater than first or equal to. If this cell is greater than or equal to H2, comma, now what we see is we put the comma in and actually highlighted our next step in the formula. This is what we want to have happen if the first part is true. Well, if the first part is true, I want the computer to spit out the word pass. In other words, I want the computer to say, oh, Mary Anderson passed the final. So I'm going to put in quotations. Anytime you want the computer to report back a text, you put in quotations. And I'm going to write pass. Okay? And in fact, you see the formula, this little box right here is coming up with the fact that this formula is going to say that the person passed. And if not, I want them to say, I want the formula to return back fail. So basically what this says is, so let's just review this formula. This is saying if, and you have to put a condition in here. In other words, something that's going to pop up as true or false. And you can see I highlighted it, and Google Sheets is telling me that is true. If this is true, then the computer is going to report back pass. And if it's not true, in other words, if that original conditional is false, then the computer is going to report back fail. Press enter, and now this says, did the student pass? Yep, they passed. And now if I drag down, I'll see, by the way, C2 stayed. If I go down, C3 changed, that's good, but H2 stayed the same because we locked it. And now I can drag this formula down. And a lot of you on the last quiz did not drag formulas down. You kept typing formulas over and over and over again. Now let's take a look. Let's just see the results of this. So we can see Dolce Cronin here actually failed. Okay, and that's what we wanted the computer to actually pop up with. We wanted the computer to say, hey, guess what? She failed. Okay? Now, let's say you might be wondering, well, what would happen if I increase my passing score? Some colleges, some teachers will want 70 to pass. So that's what's nice about having the passing score over here in some other cell as opposed to putting it here, because we could have just as easily put, instead of H2, we could have put 65. But let's say I want 70 to be the pass rate. Now, I'll go down the list, and we get an extra failure. Sue Rigg now fails because we changed the passing rate to 70%. Okay? But I'll change it back to 65. All right. Just to show you this works, let's say I wanted to see, did the student receive an A? Okay? So I'm going to do this again. Equals if I want this score, the 1, 2 columns to the left, to be greater than or equal to, now not the passing score, but the score to get an A, which is a 90. And I want to lock that. So I'm putting a dollar sign in front of H, a dollar sign in front of 3, comma. If they pass, I want them to say, okay, I want this thing to say report back an A. Or actually, yes. Let's put a yes in. So did the person receive an A? Yes. And if not, I want the computer to report back no. Press enter. Did the student receive an A? Well, their score was greater than or equal to 90, so yes, they did. All right? And I can drag this formula down. And I can see, oh, look, Lurleen Nandes passed, but did not receive an A. All right? So, just to see, Frederick Dooley passed and received an A. Well, Frederick got 100, okay? Now, let's say I wanted a strict A, a 90, I want a 94 or better. At some colleges, an A is a 94. The benefit of having this cell separate from the formula is that I can change the score for an A. And now I hope that you see, if I had a 90 in there, this guy, Mary Anderson, would have gotten an A. But if I wanted to be a strict A, like an A, not an A minus, but an A, I could put 94 in there, and bloop, I get a no. Okay, so that's called the if formula. And this if formula, you can do so many things with an if formula, but I wanted to show you the basics, and you're actually going to be able to apply this to your college spreadsheet today. Now, one last formula I wanted to show you. Okay. So let's say I wanted to find out, I'm going to put this here, the number of students passing. Okay, number of students passing. There's a formula called the COUNTIF function, or I should say a function called the COUNTIF function. Okay, and here's how COUNTIF works. I want to count the number of scores that are greater than or equal to 65 in this column. So I'm going to type in equal. So I'm going to count equals COUNTIF. This is a little bit different. So the first thing it's going to do is it's going to ask me for a range of data. A range is a section of data. So I'm going to specify my range. I'm going to highlight and clicking and dragging my data. So I want it to count if these scores. And then the next thing is I have to put in, it's a requirement. And here's the requirement. I have to put it in quotes. I want it to be greater than or equal to. And this is a little odd. I have to end the quote, and I'm going to put in an ampersand, which is above the 7 key. So you're going to press Shift 7, and then I can put my cell in. So I want to see how many of these cells are greater than or equal to H2. So I clicked H2, all right, and I want to put dollar signs around it so it never moves. And now I have 48 students who passed, okay, which means I had 2 that failed. I have 50 students here, all right. And then I might say, well, number of students getting an A, okay. So I'm going to write the same formula. It's almost the same formula. Count if. I'm going to select my range again, okay. Select my range, comma. I want to be greater than or equal to, so actually, I'm sorry, I have to use quotes, quote, greater than or equal to. The ampersand basically merges the two things together, and then I'm going to go back up the sheet, and I'm going to hit my score for an A, and I'm going to put in my dollar sign so it always stays the same. And I only had 3 kids getting an A under this definition of an A. By the way, again, this is what's cool. If I change this to a 90, I now have 7 kids getting an A. So these two functions, the if formula and the COUNTIF formula, can really help you make some decisions about colleges, and that's going to be the next little phase. So to see if you actually learned something in this project, what I'm going to have you guys do is you are going to, obviously you're watching this video, which I'm going to put the link here, and then you're going to apply this lesson to your spreadsheet. So I'm going to go through the requirements that you're supposed to meet. So first thing is you're going to create a cell in your college spreadsheet that you will provide an input for your SAT or ACT math and or English score. What do I mean by that? Well, just as in our final exam data here, I had to provide an input for my boundaries. What you're going to do on your spreadsheet, so here's my spreadsheet, somewhere on here, it doesn't matter really where, I'm going to use this cell. I'm going to put my SAT math score, okay? So I'm going to pretend I got a 600 on my SAT math score, all right? 600 on my SAT math. There it is, all right? 600 on my SAT math score. And actually, it's interesting. I have to actually freeze my row and column here. That's okay. I'll quickly do that. And what I'm going to do now, and actually I'm going to freeze, no, that's okay. Actually, I'll put my SAT math score right under here. I'll put 600. Okay? And so what I'm going to do is I am going to scroll down my sheet to where my SAT math 25th percentile is. And I'm going to insert a column, one to the right. And in this column, you are going to create a formula. And the formula is your SAT math score higher than the 25th percentile? Question. And now it's going to be your job to put a formula in here that will actually say yes or no, or did I pass or did I not pass, something like that. Okay? So we just created the cell in your college spreadsheet that will provide an input. That's going to be this cell here. Okay? And now you're going to go create the column that actually has the spreadsheet making that decision for you. All right? You're also going to do it for the 75th percentile. And by the way, you can choose whether you're doing the SAT or ACT, or whether you're choosing math or reading. It doesn't really matter to me. Okay? You're then also going to create a cell in your spreadsheet that will count the number of schools where your SAT score meets or exceeds the 25th percentile. And you're going to be creating a cell in your spreadsheet that will count the number of schools on the list for which your ACT or SAT meets or exceeds the 75th percentile. In other words, the way I had this count here, you're going to have a count for your SAT or ACT score. And the interesting thing about this little lesson is that if this thing changes, you can see how your colleges would change. So for example, if you went back and took the SAT and got a 650, you would be able to put 650 in and see automatically which schools you would be eligible or more eligible to get into. All right, so I would like you guys to try to take what you learned in this spreadsheet and apply it to your college spreadsheet. So you're going to go open up your college spreadsheet and you're going to try to work on these skills that are in this document. When you're done, you're going to or when you're done, or if you have trouble, let me know. Thanks.